Bluffdale for about 5 years now, and we're down by Sage Estates is where we live. And then I'm a nurse also. So I used to work up at Primary Children's Hospital, and now I'm out at Riverton Hospital. And I've been a nurse for close to 16 years. So I love teaching about first aid. I've taught for the city and done, different things for church groups and Boy Scouts and things like that. So hopefully we can answer any questions that you have and talk about first aid and preparedness tonight. So you can see first aid is the help that's given to sick or injured person until medical treatment can arrive, or treatment that you're going to give at home to your family members or yourself or your kids until you take them to the doctor, or if they don't need to go, then it's just treatment that you've done at home. Okay, and the reasons we use first aid, there's so many reasons. We've got, cuts and scrapes and wounds, burns, choking, drowning, sprains and strains. That's a big one, especially with kids that play sports. We have a lot of kids that play soccer and basketball and things like that. So, and then there's heart attack and stroke and other things like concussions, obviously COVID, those kinds of things. So all of these reasons that we have to use first aid. So tonight I want to talk to you about some steps that you can take to get prepared when it comes to first aid. So the first thing, we're going to look at these steps right here, is to be informed. So if you can think of the likely disasters that could happen in our area or hazards that you might have at home, these would be reasons why we'd want to prepare for first aid. So things like earthquake, flooding, maybe a power outage, winter storm are disasters that could happen in our area. And then things around the house are some things that you might not think about. You might have rose bushes with a lot of thorns. Those can cause cuts and scrapes to you or kids who fall into them. Carpets that are loose that can cause falls, cords, bookshelves that can fall over onto children or during an earthquake, things like that. So those are hazards around the home that you can think about and maybe prepare for or remedy if you can before, hopefully that you won't need first aid for those. And then the most important thing is to have a family plan. If you go to, I'm gonna switch here really quick just to here at beready.utah. They have a lot of information where you can make a plan right here. And also get a kit, be informed. So making a family plan is really important. And beready.utah is a great resource to go to get the information on how to make a family plan. And then getting training. We're going to talk a little bit about training today. CPR is so important. CERT training, which our city does, and then first aid training. And we'll talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about getting a kit, so a first aid kit, what to put in it, and where are some places that you can either purchase one or buy the things to put in one that you want to have. And then having a knowledge and having on hand at home basic over-the-counter medications and knowing what they're for and what you'd use them for. And then knowing some alternatives, so things like essential oils, herbs, aloe vera, things like that are also good to know. So learning about those things is important. Having a library of information. So these are the steps I want you to take. So getting training, getting a kit, having a library, those would all be steps that I want you to take when it comes to being prepared for first aid. Some books that I like is I really like this book. The Survival Medicine Handbook. It's a great book. It talks about like all kinds of first aid things that you would need to know in case there was no doctor. If you couldn't get to the hospital, this book helps you to kind of know what to do at home. There's another book. So, there's books like this where it says backyard medicine, and this is a book of alternative stuff that you can learn. So oils and herbs and things like that, and how to use those plants as medicine if you needed to. And then always having a great book like this, something like this, it's like disease prevention and treatment. This goes through every single ailment or disease that there is, and this is more of a medical book, so it gives you treatment options, and it describes every condition and things like that. So this is helpful to know, even just for your own information, if you're ever diagnosed with something like hypertension or something like that. It's always great to, get some information on here on what the protocols and things like that would be that doctors might use. So those are great books to have on hand. So I encourage you to get a good library of books. And that's one way that you can get some training, is you do some self-training. Okay, so before we get into some of the information, I want to talk about thinking about prevention. If we can think about how to avoid needing these items in our first aid kit, that would be great. So eating healthy and exercising is so important. Wearing proper safety equipment when we're doing, whether it's cutting your lawn or working in your shop in the garage, if you're wearing goggles, ear protection, gloves, things like that can help prevent a lot of injuries. Kids wearing a helmet when they're riding a bike, or elbow pads, things like that. Wearing sunscreen is so important to prevent burns, like sunburns. And then obviously we've learned this year about washing our hands and covering our coughs on how to prevent illness. So those are all wonderful things to think about. So prevention is something that you can use to prepare and help prevent, I guess, injuries and illnesses, so you don't have to dig into that first aid kit. Okay, and then training is the first thing that I want you to think about. Here in the city, Bluffdale City offers CERT classes, CERT training, and I help with that sometimes. I help to teach the medical portion of that during the CERT class. But the CERT class is a wonderful class to get to know how to do first aid, how to put out fires, how to do search and rescue, how to work together with your neighbors in a disaster. And it's a great class. You get this really nice little helmet and backpack and a little vest and gloves and all of those fun things when you go to the class. And you work together, learning how to rescue people during a disaster, and to do minor first aid treatment during that. So it's a great way to get some training. I believe, Natalie, right? The next class will be in the spring. Or I don't think we're having a fall class this year. So look for that in the newsletter when it comes out and sign up. It's a great class to take. CPR is an essential skill. And so I encourage you to get some CPR certification and training if you haven't done that already, or renew it if it's lapsed. And that can be done through the Red Cross. If you just go to redcross.org, and we can show that here. Let's see. We'll go to the Red Cross. If you go to the Red Cross website and you go to training tab right here, and you can see there's first aid, CPR, and you can click that and go down, I believe. Oops, we won't do that. And it'll say right here, I wanted to look for CPR classes in Utah. Basically, it filled that in for me automatically. Isn't that nice? And then it will show me all the classes that are available and the cost of those classes when they're having them. And you can sign up for a class. See, there's classes in Sandy and Salt Lake and all over the place. So that's a great place to take a class. They have first aid classes and CPR, which is that essential skill. So I encourage you to do that. There's also other CPR classes that you can take through, like Intermountain Healthcare. Besides the Stop the Bleed class that I'm going to talk about here, they do offer CPR and things like that too. Right now, they're offering a class called Stop the Bleed. If you take CERT, you get the Stop the Bleed certification during CERT, but if not, I encourage you to attend this Stop the Bleed class. It's a class that teaches you how to save somebody if they're bleeding. So it's a great class. Right now, I went to their website and I think the classes are on hold because of COVID. The numbers are rising again. So I sent a request to the lady to put me on their list for when the class opens up again, but you can go to the site and look at that class. They have them here at Riverton Hospital. And then Shield Safety is a place that sells not only first aid kits, but they also offer some training. And this training that they offer at Shield Safety is mostly for groups. So either your workplace or a church group, or if you want to grab a group of people together and have a class, that would be a great resource to use. And then you can always search the internet for other classes. When I searched, there was tons of options on there of places that you could take classes or do internet courses through to learn CPR. Okay, so getting a first aid kit is important. When I went to the Red Cross website, this left-hand column here on the screen that's highlighted in white was their deluxe first aid kit. And you can see it was $37.99 from the Red Cross website. These are the things that were included in that kit, and it's a good basic kit. I highlighted some of the things that are in there that if you're making your own kit that you'll want to include in your kit. So antibiotic ointment, hydrocortisone gauze, obviously all different sizes of gauze. We'll show some of that here in just a minute. Tape, there's different kinds of tape we're going to talk about. You can do a CPR one-way valve, like a face shield. That's always great to have in there. And then bandages of all different kinds. So they show all different kinds of plastic bandages, whether it's fingertip ones or knuckle bandages or, bigger ones. So lots of different bandages, a thermometer, tweezers, scissors, and gloves. Some latex-free gloves are always good to have in your first aid kit. So those are the basic things that most different first aid kits will have in them. I'm going to show you a few different ones. Let me just unleg here. Sorry, I'm going to walk you around my kitchen. Okay, so I'll just try and hold this still. You can have a tiny little first aid kit like this. It's just a little one that's kind of goes in a backpack for maybe going to school or in your car. So it's just a basic little first aid kit that you can just have to take with you, easy to grab. You can also make a little first aid kit on your own. So in just like a Ziploc bag, put a little bandages in there, some hand sanitizer, antibiotic ointment, and a few different things, and you've got a first aid kit. Simple ways to do it. You can buy these little first aid kits like at Walmart. I bought this one a long time ago for my son when he went to scout camp. And in it has just like tons of different bandages. I'm hoping you can see that. So different size Band-Aids and tape and antibiotic ointment, basic little first aid kit. Okay, then you can get a little more advanced and you can get a first aid kit that is kind of like, here, I'll set this computer down and I can show you this one. A bigger first aid kit like this. This is my son's first aid kit that he bought at Stat Medical. You'll see on the bottom, the very bottom of the right-hand side, it says Stat Medical Supply and where that is. So he bought this first aid kit there. This is a more expensive first aid kit. I think he said he spent $150 or possibly more dollars for it. So this is something that's pretty expensive, but in it, it has a lot of different supplies, syringes, gauze, wraps, all kinds of things. All the pockets are full of different things. And so you can get gloves, things like that. So this first aid kit is a little bit more advanced and it has a little bit more supplies in it than just a basic home first aid kit. And then there are first aid kits like this one. This is a trauma first aid kit, and this is, my husband has this in his car. He's actually a police officer with the Highway Patrol. And so he has this trauma first aid kit. You can see it has a tourniquet in it. And this is a tourniquet that is called, let me read you the name on here. This is a RATS, R-A-T-S, a RATS tourniquet. The nice thing about this tourniquet is this is one that you can apply to yourself. You don't need somebody else to apply this to you. So that's important for somebody like a highway patrol officer who could get shot in the line of duty, and he could apply this to himself if he needed to stop bleeding. And other things in this trauma kit are kind of like a chest wound seal and things like that. So you can find things like this online also that are trauma kits. Then you can make your own first aid kits. So if you want to, let me show you this one. This is a first aid kit. It's a rollout first aid kit. And it has individual pockets that you can put individual things in it. This is a bag that was designed by a girl that lives here in Bluffdale. Her name is Jill Meredith, and she designed this bag. Not just for first aid kits, but for emergency preparedness. She calls it everyday preparedness. And I use mine for first aid kit that goes in my car. You roll it up, you hook this here, and it can go with you wherever you want to go. So it's just a little bag that rolls up. These are called roll bags. And down on the bottom there, you'll see the rollout bag. It's found at blueprintsproject.com is where you can get this bag. But this bag is nice because not only can it be a first aid kit, but this is Jill's bag that she has. And it's called Everyday Preparedness. And she always keeps some cash up here. And then she has first aid supplies, some medicines, things that you would need every day. She said they were in Vegas and she used the throw up bag here for her son who threw up in the car while they were in Vegas. It's always great to have wipies, an extra binky. She has kids from 13 to 2, so extra binky, hair ties, flashlight. She has snacks for the kids in there. So she keeps this in her car and refills it almost daily with snacks and things when they go places. So when she goes to the soccer game, she's got whatever she might need, sunblock, a hair tie, things like that. In the little pocket down here, there's more snacks, a brush, lotions, sunscreen, things like that. So there's this bag is wonderful because you just roll it up, throw it in your car, take it with you every day. It's everyday preparedness, so not just first aid. So if you're interested in the roll bags, they're at that blueprintsproject.com, and you can contact Jill. She lives right here in Sage Estates also. So she designed this bag and had it made and sells these. I have done a first aid kit actually in a tackle box. Oops, we skipped a thing. Oh, well, okay, let me go back to that. Sorry. We'll go back when I hit the space pad or space bar. Okay, so here is my, I don't know if I'm showing this right. Maybe like that. Okay. I have created a tackle box that I have my first aid kit in. The nice thing about this is it has these little dividers that I can move around and create different size spaces in here. And for me, since I use my first aid kit a lot for different things, it's nice. I have a lot of different things. I wanted more than what came in one that I could buy at the store. So I have lots of big Band-Aids, little Band-Aids, knuckle Band-Aids. I have put things in mine like butterfly closures, scary strips, just because I like those kind of things. I have individual packets of hydrocortisone and antibiotic ointment. Instead of using the same tube on everybody, each Each person gets their own little sanitized portion of antibiotic ointment. I have a tourniquet. This is the other kind of tourniquet that you can use besides the rat tourniquet. If you attend the Stop the Bleed class, it will show you how to use these tourniquets. And I have all kinds of tape and things on the top here. And then on the next level of this, I'll try to open this without dropping it. I have a lot more stuff inside there. Okay, so I'm going to talk about some of those things that I have in there. Does anyone have questions on the different types of first aid kits that you can create or buy? So it can be something super simple like that tiny little first one that I showed you. I probably didn't open it, but like something super simple like this that goes in a backpack with bandages and stuff in it, or something as complicated as my tackle box that I bought at the sporting goods store and filled with first aid kit supplies. One of the places that I go to buy my medical supplies, if you look down here on the bottom of your screen, is Wasatch Medical Supply. It's in West Jordan, right there off of 7800 South. There's a little strip mall, and there's a little store in there. And I went in today and talked to the manager there. His name is Mike. And I asked him if you guys could have a discount. And he said, yes. So if you go in and you use Bluff 10 right there, you can get 10% discount. You have to do a minimum purchase of $10, but he'll give you 10% off all the medical supplies that you want there at Wasatch Medical. Stat Medical Supply Company is another company that sells medical supplies that you can go to buy Band-Aids and different things like that, also to put in a first aid kit if you want to make your own. You can always start with a kit like this kit over here from the Red Cross and then add to it. So if you were to get a basic kit like this, these are some of the other things that I might want to add to it on this other side, on the right column. So a tourniquet. Their first aid kit didn't include a tourniquet, but a tourniquet is really important. And you'll learn that when you take the Stop the Bleed class or you attend CERT and take that class on how important a tourniquet can be. Burn gel. Burn gel is this, and it helps to stop burns if you are to get a burn. And this is a great product. This is at Shield Safety is where I bought this off their website. So you can look at that one and get that at Shield Safety. Saline bullets. I'm going to grab my first aid kit just so I can show you some of these things in it. So we're talking about it. Okay. So saline bullets, you can buy at Wasatch Medical. They're just these little saline things. We call them bullets because they come apart like this. So they come in a strip and then you can peel them apart. If you twist off the top, it's a little bit of saline. It's sterile in there. And these are great for washing out your eyes. Like if you got a contact, you lost your contact lens, or you got something in your eye under a contact, you can just use these saline bullets. They're also good for cleaning wounds because it's sterile saline that's in there. So you can squirt it onto a wound. So I love these little saline bullets. You can buy those at the Wasatch Medical. Quick Clot. Quick Clot is another product that helps to stop bleeding. A lot of people take blood thinners, and if you were to get a large wound and you're on blood thinners and you're having a hard time stopping bleeding, this product works great. It has gosh, I'm not sure what's in it. Some of them have shells, like seashells in them, and others use other things. So I'm not sure what this has in it that actually causes the clotting, but it will, if you put it on a wound, a large wound, it will help to stop the bleeding. So you're going to put this on, other gauze on top, and apply pressure, and that would help to stop the bleeding. Coban. People know this as horse wrap. It comes, open this one up maybe. Sorry. Looks like this, and a lot of people use it for horses. You can buy it at IFA, I believe, in bulk, but they sell this at the medical supply store also. This is great to hold on bandages. So if I got a cut on my arm or I scraped my whole arm and I needed to wrap a lot of gauze, so I could use this to kind of wrap around and hold that in place, and it works wonderfully. Okay, and then ACE wraps are always great. Also, you can do the same thing with a large wound. You can wrap an ACE wrap around. At the hospital, we use these, when people get knee surgery or something like that, this is what they use. So they'll put gauze like 4x4s and then wrap it with an ACE wrap around to hold that in place over a large wound. Non-stick dressing is something like these. So they're called non-adherent pads, and they won't stick to a wound. So if you have like something that's still bleeding and you're putting this on, if it was to dry on, if a regular gauze was to dry on that and then you try and rip it off, it's going to rip the scab off. Well, these non-adherent, if you get some non-adherent gauze, this will not stick to a wound. So those are great to have. And usually in a regular first aid kit, they don't come in there. So you'll want to get the non-adherent kind. A pen light, flashlight, gauze rolls. So gauze also comes in rolls. So there's like little rolls and big rolls of gauze, which is also great. If you had a large wound, you could cover it with some 2x2s or 4x4s and then wrap it with the gauze and then wrap it with the ACE wrap. And that keeps everything nice and clean and sterile under there. Tongue depressors, finger splints are kind of self-explanatory. This is a SAM splint. So this is nice to have because it's bendable. You can use it to splint an arm or a leg or a knee. So instead of using like, I don't know if you've ever gone to scout camp or girls camp, or even in our CERT class, we use cardboard to make splints out of. Well, this is a splint that's kind of soft foam, but it's also bendable and moldable to the way that you want it. So it's called a SAM splint. And those are kind of wonderful to have also in your first aid kit. Elasticon tape is interesting. It's a tape that is kind of like, where did I put it? There it is. Comes in different sizes. So this is a small one, a 1 inch, but it comes in 2 inch, 3 inch, it comes 4 inches. It can come rather large, but I like this tape because it's stretchy. So it's kind of like an ACE wrap, but also sticks. So it's great tape because it's stretchy and sticks, and you can apply it and actually cause a little bit of pressure to hold that gauze on there, which will help to stop the bleeding. Alcohol wipes, BZK wipes are great because they're non-stinging. It's called benzo chromium chloride towelettes. I'll put that on there so you can see it. These are disinfectant towelettes, so that if you have a wound and you're out and about, this can clean it instead of like an alcohol prep pad. These can clean it without it stinging. And then emesis bags are those little blue throw-up bags that you can buy. Those are always handy to have, and you should have one in your glove box of your car, just because if your kids are going to throw up, it's going to be in the car. Oxygen saturation monitor is always great to have, just even at home. You can check, like if you have a kid that's sick or an elderly person that's sick, it's always nice to put that oxygen saturation monitor on their finger, see where their levels are. We had a visitor that was staying at our house, and she had gotten COVID. And about day 7, she wasn't feeling really well. We put the oxygen saturation monitor on her finger, and her oxygen was low. She actually had to go to the hospital and be admitted to the hospital. But we would not have been able to tell that unless we had that monitor at home to check it. So it's nice to have one of those around. Candy, hard candy, in case you are feeling low in sugar, that's great to have in there. And then the medications we're going to talk about, matches, paper, pen, there's all kinds of things that you can put in your first aid kit. But these are some items that I would have in mine. And then, the basic items that you would find in a first aid kit that you can buy, like the one here from the Red Cross. Any questions on any of those items that I have on there for the first aid kits?
I have a question about dehydration. I've usually tried to get like Pedialyte for my kids, and they hate the flavor and they never drink it. I can never find what they'll take or what would help.
Yeah.
Especially with kids.
Pedialyte isn't as delicious. I don't know if you've ever tried the Gatorade. They might like Gatorade better. It's an electrolyte. It has electrolytes in it also. And some kids like that better than the Pedialyte. I don't think they put as much sugar in the Pedialyte because it is for children. And so it doesn't taste as sweet as maybe Gatorade. And then I'm going to actually show you an oral rehydration solution here at the end of this presentation that you can create your own and maybe flavor it with Kool-Aid and see if they like that. The thing that makes it not taste good is the salt and potassium and stuff that's in there. So it's hard to disguise that flavor, but the more flavoring you can add to it, the better. So you might even be able to add more flavoring to the Pedialyte that you already have and see if they like it better. Okay, so we're going to talk about some medications. I'm going to just show you quickly here some of the home medications that I have. And these are all things that you should have at home on hand. If you look down the list, oh shoot, we lost our list. Darn it, who knows how to go back on a presentation without me having to escape every time? Okay. Obviously, Tylenol, ibuprofen, aspirin, those are essential home medications for pain relief, fever reducers. If you have children, you're going to want to have children's Motrin or children's Tylenol or infant Tylenol. So make sure you get the right kind for the right age. Imodium and Pepto-Bismol, those are great for diarrhea. And then we have Miralax, milk of magnesia, that's the mom, and Colace and Senna. So those are great for constipation. So here we have diarrhea and constipation. Allergy medications, a lot of people either like Zyrtec or Claritin or different ones that are out there. So if you have seasonal allergies, make sure you stock up on that. Benadryl is also a great antihistamine. Benadryl is also good for hives, nausea, anxiety, insomnia, and respiratory infections. So, I don't recommend giving your little kids Benadryl to have them go to sleep, but it's been done before. And then there's Lotrim and Monistat, one's for fungus. It's a medication that's sold at like Walmart or wherever for like jock itch or things like that, but you can use it on fungus. And then Monistat is a female yeast infection over-the-counter medication that you can buy. Triple antibiotic ointment or something like Neosporin, that is bacitracin Neosporin, that is great to have for preventing infections in your cuts and scrapes. And then hydrocortisone cream, which is great for not only rashes, but eczema, dermatitis, insect bites, things like that. If you have some kind of rash or itch, it's always great to try hydrocortisone cream on it and see if that will help. There's antacids and Tums, and then cough syrups. Obviously, we've got all the different kinds of cough syrups from, Dayquil, NyQuil, Robitussin, whatever your favorite cough syrup is. Sudafed is a great medication, also for sinuses, and it's for nasal decongestion, colds, flu, allergies, bronchitis. So Sudafed is something that is good to have on hand. And then decongestants, other decongestants, there's like Vicks Vapor Rub, which is also good for like kids to put in their vaporizer and things like that. Sore throat lozenges, you can pick many different kinds of those. And then obviously for sunburns, you've got the aloe vera gel and the burn gel that works also on sunburns. And then things like allergy eye drops. So these are some just basic medications that I recommend having in your house for different things. And it's nice that you have them on hand and don't have to run to the pharmacy when you're sick or when something happens and you're like, I don't have any, Neosporin. I've got to run to the pharmacy because little Johnny scraped his knee. It's best if you can have these things on hand at home and then rotate through them. So there's some special considerations. So you're going to want to store your medications in a cool, dry, dark place and in their original packaging. If you haven't opened it yet, that's great, but the original packaging will have the directions on it that you can read for dosages, for different ages and things like that, which is really important because there's some medications like, let's see, I'm trying to think of the name of it. Anyways, it's the nasal spray that you use that helps to open up your nasal passages. Afrin, I'm trying to think of the name. And it's important to read the instructions because if you use Afrin longer than 3 days in a row, it will cause more congestion and bleeding. It could cause bleeding in your nose. So you have to read the instructions. You just don't want to use medications without knowing how to use them. So if you keep them in their original packaging, then you'll always have the instructions and also the expiration date. Don't forget the special needs, like we talked about infants. If you have young children, then have medications that are dosed for those younger kids. If you have chronic conditions, seasonal allergies, things like that, you'll want to make sure you stock up on those medications more than, just having a couple on hand. If you have any allergies to medications, also make sure you know that. So there's this medical letter that came out that said, many drugs stored under, I'll just read it, reasonable conditions retain 90% of their potency for at least 5 years after their expiration date. I'm not going to tell you to use expired medications, but if it was kind of an end of the world scenario and we didn't have a store anymore, just know that if it's expired, you can still use it. It will still have some of its potency. Liquid medications, though, I don't recommend using past their expiration date because they don't keep. But if it's tablets, like ibuprofen, these are going to keep a long time. If for some reason the medication doesn't smell good, is discolored, anything like that, obviously you don't want to use it past its expiration date. I recommend the best thing to do is keep a fresh supply. So every couple of years, I'll go through my little box of medications. And if it's expired, I toss it out and buy a new one. And I just try to keep up on it so that, if something ever did happen, I have the freshest supply of medications possible that are not expired. Okay. So try to go through your box of your medicine cabinet or your box of medications. If it's expired, toss it out right now while we're able to get new ones and replace it. I don't recommend having to keep them or use them past their expiration date. That is just in case of, we're not able to get medications anymore. Just know that they are possibly good past their expiration date. If you can stock up on prescription medications, do so. Sometimes you can get your doctor to write a prescription to get you a 3-month supply. Sometimes he'll write an extra prescription for you. You might have to pay cash for that prescription to get that second dose of it. But if you can get at least another 30-day supply of your prescription medication, that is helpful to have. And then the potassium iodide there is a medication that you can buy. They sell it on the internet. In case of a nuclear event, this medication, if you take it, prevents your thyroid from absorbing radiation because it will take the place. It'll fill your thyroid first before the radiation can. So if you're concerned about that, that is the medication that you would use for that. He was asking a little bit about dehydration, and I did want to give you this recipe. I'm going to grab the little products here. So you can make your own Pedialyte or Gatorade, and this is the recipe for it. So you're going to take salt, which is sodium chloride. So you can use salt, and any kind of salt is fine. This is like the real salt. You can take sugar just out of your pantry cupboard, baking soda, which is sodium bicarb, and then no salt. if you've ever seen this product at the store, it's called No Salt. And this product it's sodium free, so it's potassium chloride, and this is what you would use. And then 4 cups of water. So you add those little 1/4 of teaspoons and 2.5 tablespoons of sugar to 4 cups of water, and that will create a rehydration solution so that you can use it like Gatorade. Okay, and you can add flavoring to it. So if you have Kool-Aid packets or anything like that, you can add that flavoring to it. And then hopefully it won't taste as bad. But this is a homemade rehydration solution. Over here on this side, it shows you some of the symptoms of dehydration. The first one is headache. If you start feeling a headache, if you're outside and you're thirsty, you're dehydrated. So you can look at those little things on there. And okay, so just so you know, diarrhea is one of the biggest killers around the world. And here in the United States, it's not that bad because we have clean drinking water, but in many places, they don't have clean drinking water. If we ever came upon a situation where we didn't have clean drinking water, there would be a lot of people dying from diarrhea. So it's important to have those medications like the Imodium and the Pepto-Bismol that can help with that. Having the rehydration solution, if you didn't have Gatorade on hand, you now know how to make it with salt, no salt, and baking soda and sugar. But you want to know how to treat diarrhea. So here's some instructions for that. You'll want to go 12 hours without solids, just clear liquids. And then you can start the clear liquids would be like water, broth, the Gatorade or Pedialyte, the rehydration solution. Then you'll move up to thin cereals, and then the brat diet, which is bananas, rice, applesauce, and toast. But you want to make sure that you know how to take care of that, because if we ever did have a grid down situation or a situation where the water wasn't flowing and we had to drink water that you're filtering from the Jordan River or somewhere, we're hoping that people won't be dying left and right from diarrhea. So this is how you treat diarrhea. Okay, and I think that was the end. Well, we can end there unless anyone else had questions about anything else. I could take some questions.
Now I'm all interested in what that last slide was.
Oh, I can show you. I can go back and show you. Let's see. I have a lot of different slides in here because I do presentation on different things, but I wanted to include diarrhea, but cellulitis is also another thing that can happen, I guess. And it can happen from a mosquito bite, or you just scratching a little itch or something on your arm. Your fingernails are usually pretty dirty, and you can have staph or streptococcus or staphylococcus in your fingernails. And as you're scratching that mosquito bite and it's itching and itching and itching, you can put that into that bite or, blister or whatever scratch on your skin. And then you can get this cellulitis, which is an infection of the skin basically, and it can spread. And you can see on this top foot there where they've marked with a pen, kind of the outline of it. We do that at the hospital. You kind of mark it and see if it's growing or getting smaller. So you kind of mark it with a pen, and then the next day you'll come and you'll see, has it grown or is it smaller? If it's growing, that's not good, because then your treatment is not working, right? So we want it to be getting better, not smaller. But as cellulitis is an emergency, it does need to be treated with antibiotics. A lot of times people who have fallen and gotten road rash, like on your knees, or kids who crash on a bike and get road rash, is really super easy to get cellulitis and road rash. So you got to watch those. If it starts getting red and hot and swollen, it could be cellulitis, and you should get it checked out, because it does need antibiotics to cure it or to help eliminate it. And then it can be life-threatening, because that infection can go from the skin into your bloodstream. So through your little capillaries in the skin, if it gets bad enough, it can enter into the bloodstream and it can cause septic shock. So if you ever see somebody with a a wound that's getting worse and redder and spreading, then you should get it checked out, get some antibiotics. So that's what that slide was on. Anybody have questions on anything else? I think I've got a slide on CPR. Let's see. Maybe. I thought I did.
I do have a question about choking.
Yes.
I've recently seen like some little devices called, I want to say it's called a D-choker. Have you heard of this thing, and is it effective?
I have no idea. The first time I saw it was this last week also, like on a YouTube video or like a commercial kind of thing that came up, an ad. And it was just this thing that they kind of suck the thing out. I have no idea if that works. It's the first time I've ever seen it. So I don't know. Heimlich maneuver though, you could try that. But if the Heimlich maneuver didn't work, if you had one of those, I would try it definitely. If the, food or whatever is lodged in there isn't coming out. So yeah, I don't know if they work or not.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So a lot of people are afraid of CPR because you think that you have to give breaths, and they actually have this thing called CCR, so compressions only, instead of the respiratory, the cardiopulmonary resuscitation. It's just cardiac resuscitation. So you can't use it on children because children will always need breaths. But you can use it on adults. Like if you were walking down the street and you saw somebody that had passed out and you're like, oh, I really don't want to give breaths. You can call 911 and just do compressions. That will circulate the oxygenated blood that was in their lungs, and it will do more good than doing nothing. So they recommend it. If you're not sure and you don't want to give breaths on some stranger that you just came across on the street or something like that, just know that if you know how to do CPR and you can do the compressions, that will do more good as you're waiting for the ambulance to get there than doing nothing. So you can look that one up if you want to on CCR. It'll circulate the oxygenated blood that's already in your body, because in your lungs, that last breath that he took, will have oxygen in there. So you can circulate that and as you're waiting for the ambulance to get there. So, and just know CPR doesn't restart the heart. You have to have either medications or shocks, this AED machine right here. If you're in the church or if you're in a school and somebody has a heart attack, make sure somebody applies this AED machine. It will talk you through how to do CPR and everything. So any other questions?
Thanks, Arlene. Will you be able to send us the presentation and then we can link it on the website?
Yes, I can.